begin in just a couple minutes. And as we wait for everyone to get settled in, you know I got that intro bumper for you. So enjoy the music, enjoy the accolades, the pictures, and the reviews. Definitely be sure to comment, where you're tuning in from. And again, this Breakfast of Champions is going to be really focused about an open forum. So don't forget to comment in the chat box what questions you have for the day, and I'll be picking a few of them to answer. I'll talk to you guys. All right, see you in a minute. Bye.
Always got the vibe, got the vibe, got the vibe, got the vibe.
Good morning. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Breakfast of Champions. As you guys already know, this episode is going to be really dedicated about an open forum. And so I'm in the new studio, aka the garage, and I hope that the sound quality is on point. There's no more technical glitches with these Breakfast Champions, but we're going to be spending the next hour in doing open forum. So open forum is basically questions that you have about sales. I got IG plugged in live. I got Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter plugged in live. And so if you guys are hearing this right now, comment in the comment section where you're checking in from, where you're tuning in from. Are you at work? Are you in the conference room with your team? And please do not be shy. Right now is an opportunity to put your questions out there. You know, don't get any stage fright. Just because someone saw you type in the chat box, it doesn't mean that you're not cool anymore. It just means that you're interacting and you're engaging and you're taking the opportunity right now that we have before us to help you catapult your day. And so in this live stream, what I'm going to focus on again is questions that you're having. It's to be questions of like how to get a promotion, how to get a next sale, whether you're purchase or refinance. I think it's vitally important to take the opportunity when you get a chance to really pick the brain of someone who has a little bit more experience, who's been down that path that you're currently going on right now, and using their experience to shield yourself from any potential delays in trying to reach that next level. And so as you guys are watching this, I appreciate the engagement in advance. Don't forget to comment your questions in the comment box, and I'm going to be choosing which questions to actually tune in from. So what's up, Joseph, T-Dash, John, Elmer? Thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to go and start it off while you guys get settled in with asking the questions. And again, the one of the questions that I got over the last week was about cold calling. And it's a real good question because right now I think that we are coming up in a day and age where cold calling is kind of an old sport, right? Old dude like me. I came up in the sport where all we did was cold call because the internet wasn't necessarily a thing at that time. It wasn't as accessible at the time that I actually started in sales. There was a lot of mail advertisement at the time that was popular, but majority of the business was drummed up through cold calling. So for those of you who know my background, I started as a telemarketer before I went into a junior loan officer, then a loan officer, then a senior loan officer, and so on and so forth, right? And so I got a question from one of the loyal audience members, hey D, how do you cold call? And it was really inspirational because number one, not too many people even want to know cold call. No, not too many people want to admit that they're kind of scared to try cold calling. But I think cold calling is important to understand because it's a skill that you really need to refine. Because if you can understand how to properly cold call business, not only will you set yourself apart from the competition, but you're going to be able to hunt in areas that I would say at least 90% of our competition simply is not hunting. Now they hunt in that area via CSRs. So they might have a customer service department that does the cold calling for you, but it's literally not the same. If you understood how to cold call yourself, you can have a little bit more control over the data that you cold call. So to answer that question, how do you cold call? I think number one is you have to just do it, right? So let me explain the reason why a lot of loan officers don't cold call today is because number one, they didn't come up in the environment where cold calling was even needed. Because again, internet is such a huge thing that we can actually, join companies that generate leads through internet aggregate leads. And, but then again, on the flip side, I'm sure some of you agents don't get fed any leads. And so you have to try and cold call realtors. And this particular agent that asked me the question of how do you cold call, what they were trying to do was cold call business because they don't have the resources with their employer that provides them the leads or the aggregate resources, right? And so I guess the primary thing is number one is you have to do role play. Like you have to either record yourself or you have to role play with someone on your team. And role playing is a lost art, man. Like I don't see anyone actually, getting hyped up and getting into the mood of role playing because everyone's so self-conscious that they don't want to look stupid or they don't want to, put themselves out there and sound dumb. And unfortunately, those who really know how to cold call, unfortunately, they're not, they're too busy. They're on the phone. And so they're drumming up business and they don't necessarily have time to sit down with you and teach you how to cold call. But if you could find somebody in your sales floor, maybe someone in your team or someone within your company who's open to the idea of role playing, and it feels a little bit weird, right? Because it's number one is like you're not talking to a prospect, but here's the advantage is that when you role play with somebody, you're not worried about talking to the prospect. And I think that's more than half the battle is because when you're on a cold call, you don't want to sound stupid, but when you're role playing with maybe a buddy or a work friend or someone who's on your team with the same cause and the same goal, I think you'd be able to kind of lighten up a little bit more. And I think that the primary, I guess the primary problem with cold calling is the simple fact that you don't want to mess up. And so you're too much into your head. But if you have an opportunity to do role play or maybe even record yourself while you're doing cold calls, you can analyze how you're sounding. Me personally, I didn't necessarily have anyone to do role playing with. Back in my day when we started, they kind of just gave you these like a big book of leads and you had to figure it out. So you just, you put yourself out there. And so what I did was instead of look at that as a problem and kind of bitch and moan and say, oh, but I have no one who wants to role play with me. What I did was I made it work. And so who I role played with were the leads. So I had to kind of retrain my mind and and look at the lead as, you know what, there's plenty of leads on this sheet of paper, just like there are plenty of homeowners. If you walk out into your neighborhood or you just drive down the street, there are plenty of houses, right? And each one of these houses have homeowners. And so when you look at it from that type of scale, you're not necessarily getting stage fright when you're talking to one particular prospect or one realtor or one referral partner, because at the end of the day, if you mess up, right? Like, just get over yourself. But you have to be willing to put yourself out there, because the more you practice, the more it becomes a habit. And soon that habit will become just second nature. And I think, again, it's important to understand how to cold call, because you're doing, it's like improv, you know, and one of the biggest tips that I can give you guys is, number one, is cold call, because the dialer may not necessarily at times be giving you the leads that you need to be spending your time with. You know, there are times in the market where the dialer is just going to connect you with people who don't qualify for refinances, and that's just the nature of the sport. But if you understand how to properly cold call, then you can choose who you are actually hunting for. And so if you got a campaign within your CRM, or if you connected with your title rep and you got leads from an expensive retail bank who may be in your local area, and you know that they've been scrubbed from the do not call list, and you know that they bought their house within the last year, and you know that they have an FHA loan with MI on it, this gives you an uncanny advantage, because now you can cold call people who genuinely need your service. But the question was, how do you cold call, right? So when you cold call, there's two ways to do it. The traditional way is going to be loan officers who are cold calling to ask, right? So there's this tonality, and a majority of our ability to actually sell, like a big piece of how we're able to successfully sell, has a lot to do with our tonality, because our tonality really kind of defines the message that we're trying to share. And so the way of cold calling sounds a little something like this, like, hey, my name is Daniel. I work with this company. I hope you're having a great day. Do you have a minute? And so they'll start off with a question and completely, disregard the fact of being empathetic to the person who's answering the call. And we need to understand that, number one, is not all about us. It's really about them. And so we only have a couple seconds to really capture their attention. But the traditional method sounds something like, hey, it's a great day at my company. I was wondering if you're in the market to refinance. We got some great rates, or we're the lowest rate provider in the industry. And that's just horrible. It's just a boo-boo way to do it. You don't want to go about it in that way, because you're going to put them more on guard and you're giving them more reason to shut it off. So instead, we have to kind of engineer our tonality and our message and our rhythm and our energy in a sense that the call was meant to happen. And so when I used to cold call back in the day, I used to blame things, right? Like, I used to say that I was doing a campaign within the city. So if let's say they lived in Tustin, California, I would say, hey, my name is Daniel. We're actually doing a campaign for Tustin homeowners who have mortgage insurance. And I noticed that you may have financed your property about a year ago using mortgage insurance premiums. And so again, there's an intent behind it, and it's immediately illustrating why it applies to them. And now we, as loan officers, we get worried, because we're like, but what if they say an objection? Well, fuck, then they say an objection. Get over it. You'll learn about it, and then you'll recraft your message in moving forward. But you're never going to know until you actually put it out there and you actually refine it and you continuously practice, right? But going back to the answer, how you cold call in today's age is you have to have purpose. You have to have meaning. There has to be a reason. If you're not calling with a reason, then you're just kind of fishing, and you're what I like to call blind dialing. Like, you're just hoping that you catch something. And that's where the principle of, the more calls you make, the more opportunities you have. Sales is a numbers game. And I'm a little bit lazy. I'm a little bit more unique. So I don't want to play the numbers game. I'd rather, spend time on 10 leads where I could possibly flip 2 or 3, rather than spend time with 100 leads where I'm hoping that I can close 1. And so with the resources that we have, sometimes we don't necessarily look at it for the full use. And property profile reports, or the information that we have from title reports, this is data that we can technically curate and allow us to only spend time in front of people who generally needs our service. When loan officers get burnt out, it's because they're spending too much time in front of people who don't want their service. But what you're going to figure out is that when you practice cold calling and you know how to really cold call, you're going to be quick to think on your feet. back in the day when I was young, I used to do freestyles, right? Like I'm a hip hop head or whatever. I love hip hop, and so freestyles, is basically where you just put on instrumental and you flow, right? And flows, you rap, right? I know, right? So, but I was young at the time, and so at the time, you only had this finite amount of time to say a particular verse, and it was basically every clap, right? And so you had to say verses that rhymed, and you had to literally think 2 or 3 steps ahead before you can actually enunciate. But when you get into a rhythm, it just comes out, it just flows, right? But at very first time that I was freestyling, I sounded horrible. Like I couldn't put a rhyme together if you paid me. But then I just started understanding how it worked, and I understand the rhythm, and I understand how you can literally make the audience, whoever's listening to you, feel the words with a little bit more impact, and how it's actually it's actually tailored to that particular scenario. And so if you're cold calling in today's time, you have to come through with a purpose. So a good way to start would be like, hey, my name is Daniel. I'm actually doing a campaign within your area of Orange County. And so immediately you start naming things that they're familiar with, because they only want to know what's in it for them. Does that make sense? Whereas a lot of people, they fish for information, but keep in mind you're a stranger. So the faster that you can enunciate things that they're familiar with, like let's say they live on Memory Lane in Orange County in the city of Tustin. You say, hey, my name is Daniel. I'm actually doing a campaign within the city of Tustin. Your home on Memory Lane is actually within this target group, because a lot of homeowners within Orange County actually finance their purchase loan with use of FHA funds. And this is a government type loan that has mortgage insurance premium. Anyway, I'm sending over to you a complimentary report that's actually going to show you how to exit your FHA loan to remove mortgage insurance faster than you need to. And so this is just an example, but you'll understand that it's already in motion, and it has nothing to do with asking them if they got a minute. I'm not asking them if they will accept the report. I'm already insinuating that it's on its way. And that is how you have to communicate with them, because once when you understand that sales engagement is the only way that they're going to give you anything, whether they give you their time, they give you their attention, they give you their business, or they buy into your message, or they buy into you, you have to understand what moves them, what's in it for them, right? And when you call somebody and do a cold call and you ask them if they're interested in refinancing, or they're in the market to get a lower rate or lower their term, are you thinking about doing home improvements, or do you need any debt consolidation? You're fishing, you're asking them for information. And keep in mind that you are a stranger still. And if you're a stranger, what's the likelihood of these people going to tell you the things that you really need to know? And so you need to be a little bit more covert, and you need to immediately capture their attention and give them the idea that it's just already in motion, and you were meant to make that phone call. Because if you were meant to make that phone call, then they feel like they're part of a group, they're part of a community. Does that make sense? So if that's making sense with you guys right now, definitely type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Engagement is going to be very important within this open forum. So I'm asking you guys, wherever you're watching from, I can almost guarantee you that there's a keyboard right next to you. And all I'm saying is just engage. Put your questions into the comment box, and I'll be sure to pick those questions out, and we can actually address them. Yes, role-playing is discovering our weakness. That is right, Joseph. You need to put yourself out there, bro. I'm getting the apps in, but not converting as high as I would like. How do you end the application call and follow up to conversation? Okay, good question, John. So, so this is actually a very common question. So John's question was, getting the apps in, but not converting as much as I would like. And so, John, what you may find if you're not recording yourself already is that after you take the application, if you have the ability to complete the application, that's half the battle, right? And oftentimes the reason why it's hard to convert those applications into a sale is because we give too much information up front. And when you start building your sales process to a point where it gets to the pitch part of the process, so you have basically marketing, intro, right? So marketing could be internet leads, it could be mail marketing. That's initially their introduction to you, right? And so you create interest. And so with that interest, then you capture attention. And the application is really just about luring the attention, because you have to build up enough rapport or energy to actually ask them that very sensitive question of what's your social security number, right? And so if you have the ability to do that, I think you're already strong. It's just probably a few tweaks that you need to make within your conversation to effectively convert that conversation into a sales pitch in which where you can properly close them. And so let me give you a traditional way. So the traditional method that I hear a lot from loan officers in how they convert, like how they transition from the application to the pitch, it sounds something very much like this. So after they get the social security number, they'll say, okay, I'll go and put together some options for you. What time are you going to be available so that I can go over some options with you? And that person who you're talking to may say, I'll be available in 2 hours. And so then the loan officer says, okay, I'll go and talk to you in 2 hours. And that's how they transition. Some loan officers will say, okay, I'll go and put some information together. From right now, I could see that you're looking at maybe a 30-year fix, 4.5%, but I'm going to try to get you lender credit, right? And so you're giving too much information. The key is to make that applicant feel like whatever they get, and you're able to kind of build that idea through the conversation from the things you say. So it's really all about being proactive, John. If you want to better convert your applications into an effective sales pitch, you have to build up the anticipation for what you have. And so a more effective way would be something like, after you get the social security number, you could say, okay, I'll go and get to work on preparing the disclosures. I'm going to send it over to your iCloud account. If I run into any hiccups, I'll be sure to connect with you before I send them out. And that's it, right? And so then you might be like, yo, but D, how do you know what time to call them? How do you know when, right? And you know this because, again, you're being proactive within the conversation. So part of the conversation was picking up clues like, is this dude married? Is she married? Is there another person who handles the finances, right? When are they going to be available to give a consent? And so they're telling you these answers, but you're kind of playing chess with it. Much like I illustrated about flowing, I was always thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead, and you have to think 2 or 3 steps ahead, because sales is all about positioning. It's all about chess. It's not checkers, right? You shouldn't be spending your entire conversation one-upping everybody, trying to hop over and get that, get that crown. And so it's important for you to pick up these little details that are really going to help you refine kind of your process. And so in the conversation, you could have mentioned, or you could have found out that they're married, and maybe the wife assists with handling the bills, right? So you ask questions like, at the end of the month, who's usually the one who sends out the payments for your bills? And they might say, well, we send them out together, or my wife handles that. And so I'm already knowing that particular person needs to be part of the pitch or the presentation. And so later on in the conversation, not necessarily too close because it's going to give it away, I'll ask and say, hey, you know what? So that I don't have to mail these disclosures to you, John, I'm going to go ahead and send you a request to give me consent to deliver them electronically, so that way you can see them tonight when you get home. But I do need your wife's consent. Do you know when she'll be home by a tablet or a computer so she can give consent? This way I could release it. And then he may say, oh, well, she's a homemaker. He's going to be there all day, or she's going to be there all day. Or yeah, she's usually at home at about 6:30, but then we feed the kids, so she's not going to be ready till 7. Does that make sense? And so you're already kind of taking note of that. And what you'll do is you'll find out that number one is that he is already, or the person you're already talking to is, you'll discover when they get home or when they're going to be together. They don't necessarily need to be together, but you can ask questions like, hey, when are you in commute home? Because our phones have the capabilities to do conference calls, and so you could position yourself that way, right? But I would say, John, in order to answer your question, if you're having difficulties on converting your applications to a closed sale, oftentimes it's because you're giving too much information before actually capturing their emotional buy-in. And so the transition from your app to your sales pitch needs to be you need to build more mystery, right? But at the same time, you can't transition into that next call by saying, hey, let me go and put some options together. I'll give you a call in 2 hours, because you're not positioning yourself properly to present it to the right people. You're actually opening up the door to get that objection at the very end of saying, okay, well, let me think about it. Let me talk to my wife about it. Let me talk to my husband about it. Let me go and think about it a little bit more. You're inviting that. And so if you can remove that by being proactive and capturing them both when they have isolated attention just on you and your presentation, then I think you can be a little bit more effective. But and I'll end on this, John. When you do finally refine that part of the process and you transition successfully over to your sales pitch, the sales pitch cannot start off like, hey, Jim, I went ahead and put some options together, grab a pen and paper. So if you haven't watched any of my content yet thus far, I got tons of videos on how to properly transition. But the good news is the simple fact that you know how to take the application. So just work on it, John, and definitely, think about picking up that sales script if you haven't already. I mean, you said you already can take applications, so I imagine you're probably using it. All right. So next question, let me see. What books do you recommend? Right now, I'm actually reading this book. It's called How to Sell Your Way Through Life from Napoleon Hill. That book is fucking gangster. It's really good content. It's good information. So I would recommend that because that's the one that I'm reading or going back into right now. But there's another book that made me look at Nike in a completely different way. I'm a Nike head. If you guys don't know, I got a lot of Nike gear. It's one of my favorite brands. And I never really knew the background of Nike. I just knew that they're a fucking big company and they got nice gear, right? But Phil Knight, the creator of Nike, did this memoir. And so he has this book out called Shoe Dog. And it's an amazing book. I would recommend the audiobook because the narrator really tells the story very well. And I do a lot of audiobooks, and sometimes the narrator could be super boring. But why I think that that's good is because it takes your mental focus away from studying the game all the time. And I think you really need to have these reference points of people who also went through the grind but was able to climb out of it and make their way. And so I would strongly recommend that the book is called Shoe Dog, Memoirs from the creator of Nike by Phil Knight. So I think he's the one who actually wrote the book. So I hope you guys pick that up. I apologize. I mean, converting the deal when they find a home when there are multiple lenders. Oh, got it. I've had success. Okay. Well, damn, I just rambled on for 10 minutes. I wasn't even answering John's question. So John, and for anybody, you guys who are dealing with purchase loans, when you get the application, and I imagine now you're talking about pre-approvals, it's hard to convert them now when they open up escrow, right? So, I over the last 4 days, I released content, a lot of content for purchase loan officers, John. So I definitely recommend that, you look at those videos. But in short, to make it short and sweet, you have to be proactive again. So from point of pre-approval, you just have to set up the expectations correctly. And you have to muster up the courage to engage with the realtor. And I think a lot of times the reason why loan officers are losing their sales is because there's no actual common bond with the realtor. And so the realtor has really no investment into you. There's no loyalty to you. And for whatever reason, I think loan officers kind of we have this fear of talking to realtors because we think that they're better than us. They're no one else but a salesman, bro. They're doing what we do just on a different scale. And I think that if you can win over the realtor and win over the prospect, you'll ensure that you are not only kept front of mind, but that person is not going to sway that other person to lean away from you. But you still have to set up the precedents. You still have to maybe set up the expectation right up front and say, hey, Mr. Home Buyer or Mrs. Home Buyer, as you go through this process, you're probably going to get solicited from realtors, loan officers, and market ads that are going to show you different opportunities or different loan programs. A lot of this is going to be very confusing. And I need you to understand that as of right now, since we don't necessarily have a home for you to open up escrow on, I can't necessarily tell you what your rate and your payment's going to be because I don't know what the price of the house is. I don't know what the market's going to be in a month or 2 months from now. But what I can assure you is that all of us, every single lender, every loan officer, we all have access to the same programs. It just really depends on the strength of the relationship that lender has with the entity. So whether it's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, or FHA. And the reason why most homeowners in your county prefer to work with us is because of that strength. And so I'll show you when that time comes. But because I got your pre-approval, you want to protect this pre-approval to avoid any delays or avoid any loss of your earnest money deposit. So I'm going to be checking in with you from, every week to every other week. I'm always available to you Here's my cell phone number. If you ever have any questions, please call me. But do me one big favor. Avoid having any credit inquiries during the shopping process. Don't finance anything new. If you have to pull your credit or you have pulled your credit, please notify me right away, because I need to update the underwriter that signed off on your pre-approval, or it's going to cause major delay. And I don't want you to lose out on the opportunity of securing the house of your dreams. So let's do this. Every week that I check in with you, if you have questions, please share them with me at that time. But, you know, as odd as it sounds, I gotta tell you, you can't necessarily worry about rate and payment yet because you don't have a house. What I could tell you is that I'm going to give you the absolute best deal that you could find because I designed your pre-approval, right? And so sometimes realtors may sway you to talk to their loan officer friend. At the end of the day, you're just talking to another loan officer. We do the exact same thing. And the only thing that you're really doing is inviting an opportunity to delay your process, because that loan officer, in order to properly quote you, will need to do a credit inquiry. But if you're doing a credit inquiry for a quote and you haven't even found a home yet, what's the use? It's just going to be a hard inquiry, and you need to protect your credit, John. Make sense? So hope that answers your question. I've had success sending out pre-qualifications, but they're not bringing any immediate results, as these are borrowers who are shopping for homes. This is hurting meeting my units, volume count. Got it. Yeah. So again, Christian, I think that, you know, just as I was sharing with John, I think what's important is how you set up that experience right from the gate. So because, you know, we can tend to kind of just fall victim to the process where we kind of disconnect after we issue the PAL. And usually this happens because maybe our daily quotas or our monthly quotas are focused on one thing. And so, you know, one thing, of course, in the purchase division is going to be for pre-approved letters, right? The whole message is to get more pre-approvals out there in the street. And so when we become hyper-focused on this one task, we sometimes neglect the other most important task, which is constant engagement. And so I think that, you know, you have to refine your method and script on how to engage not only with the prospect, but also the realtor. And so you're setting up the expectation, you're making nice with the realtor so that they understand that you're trustworthy, you're accountable, because the primary reason that realtor is going to refer your pre-approved buyer to someone else is because you're hard to contact. You don't give updates. And mind you, that realtor, again, is just like us, right? If that deal doesn't close, they've wasted their time and they're not making money. And you have to understand that realtors operate in a little bit different ways. So they, you know, that's their livelihood, just like us. It's our livelihood too, right? But if you can give them the certainty and the confidence that they need to know that you are always a call away, you're easily accessible, they have your cell phone. And some of you might be like, but D, I don't want to give my cell phone, bro. Then you're going to lose. You know what I mean? You're in the business of being present. You're in the business of being available. And if you're fearful that you're going to give people your cell phone, you're in the wrong business. Invest in yourself and go pick up a burner. Go pick up a phone that is specifically meant for your business. You could probably write that off. So I hope that answers your question. How do I get more immediate results if most of the people I speak to are purchase transactions? Where do I look for units, volumes, so I'm not depending on just my pre-quals out there? Yeah, good question, Christian. So I think that a lot of loan officers are right now, or especially if you're in purchase, are sleeping on the potential of your past business. So your book of business already has a pot of gold in it. There are, you know, when your company, every company has access to title vendors. And so the fastest way to build up your pipeline so that you can have the confidence to go out and start drumming up business from referral partners, you have to generate revenue, right? Revenue is key as a salesman, because without revenue and without feeding your pipeline, the mental game of this system is very hard to beat. And so if you're out in the street trying to find, you know, referral partners, or you're relying on pre-approvals to feed your mouth, and you're going to get more anxiety, you're going to be more anxious, and every single time you lose one of those pre-approved buyers, because that's going to happen. Sometimes they're just going to go with their bank, or they're going to go with their credit union, and we just got to expect that. So the only way that we could really protect ourselves is by putting more out there and refining the process and learning from every loss. And so if you lost one to another person, accept it, and, you know, accept that defeat, but also find out what happened. Like, well, why did you go with them? It's because of price or because of rate, but it goes a little bit deeper, and you have to really analyze that and be fully self-aware. But another thing is to also be aware about is that if you're just solely focused on one thing, which is pre-approvals and purchases, and you're ignoring the fact that you could do refinances right now, especially with the market change, then you're going to lose out on the opportunity to feed your pipeline, which thus feeds your confidence and gives you the radiance, that tonality to properly communicate with those, like, so buyers or realtors. Like, if you know your money's right, your tonality, your game, your swagger, your confidence is at the level where you want it to be. Some great tips. Thanks, John. Never Split the Difference. Great book. Yeah, I heard about that book. I think it was written from a negotiator. Thanks for the share, Maria Ray. The way I get leads, I'm usually not first to connect. I've been finding a lot of people jump to, not interested, already taken care of. It was a mistake. How do you break through their defense? Okay, good question, Ray. So it sounds like you're dealing with aggregate leads, right? So depending on when you connect with these aggregate leads, again, I think that just kind of the same method of cold calling. You have to radiate a tonality and have an energy within that conversation where it's already in motion and it's already on its way. So for example, if I were connected to a lead and I found out that I'm number 5 or I'm number 6, what number one is you already know that you're not the first, right? And so let's say if you were the lead, Ray, and I'd be like, hey, Ray, this is Daniel, with my company. I'm actually connecting with you regarding the inquiry that you did for the information. I'm actually going to be sending that out over to your Yahoo account. It's going to be coming your way, and it's going to be tailored specifically to your property on Memory Lane. Just out of curiosity, how many lenders have you already spoken with already? And then they're going to say 9, right? And say, okay, great. So the reason why I'm number 10 is because you have, as a consumer, you have a right to know what your options are. And now that you understand how to do it through brokers and high retail cost banks, I'm now going to show you how to get access to the same exact entity without all those high retail markups and no broker points, right? And so you're molding it to them, but you're adapting to that message. And so if they said you're number 4, say, okay, great. The reason why we're number 4 is because as a consumer, you have right to see what your options are. And so those first 3 before me will show you how to pay retail costs or broker points or work with middlemen. And the reason why now I'm connecting with you is because I'm now going to show you how to get that same exact service at a lower cost or without broker points or without dealing with a middleman, whatever is tailored to you specifically. So again, it's all conforming. Where I think a lot of loan officers have challenges with aggregate leads is because they open up with a question. And one of those, man, it's so taboo, because if you open up a aggregate lead, number one is we have to be empathetic. Again, empathy, it serves a huge point of value because you're actually living it through your prospect's eyes, and you have to ask yourself, well, how would I react, right? Or how does everyone else react? And so if you're getting the common reaction of like, oh, I'm already taken care of, or oh, I'm not interested, or oh, it was an accident, it's because something that you're saying that allows them to say that. And typically what allows them to say that is saying, hey, I'm just getting back to you. How you doing today? Right? And that's giving them control of the conversation. And that's opening up the opportunity for them to then give you that famous objection of like, hey, it was an accident. So instead, adapt to it. Again, make it sound like it was meant to happen. The call that you're making, it was meant to happen that way, while at the same time covertly differentiating yourself. And it's always on its way, right? Like, hey, I'm just getting back to you regarding the inquiry. I'm actually going to be sending out to your, and boom, boom, boom. You start listing things that they're immediately familiar with, right? And it's on its way. I never asked them a question like, hey, how you doing today? Like, is it shiny in Oregon or wherever you're from? A lot of people or a lot of loan officers like to make this small talk that gives it away that they're trying to sell that person. And there's nothing a consumer hates more than talking to a salesman. And so you got to avoid saying things that a salesman would say. And typically what a salesman would say is, how are you? Sounds weird, right? Like but we're trained to ask them how we're doing. We're just being professional and courteous. No, you're not. You're burning up their time. So stop doing it. Hope that answers your question, Ray. All right. Some other questions on here. Again, if you guys are just joining this, please don't forget to comment the questions that you have. We got another about 25 minutes, an open forum in this live stream where I'm answering questions for, as you heard already, for both purchase loan officers, refinance loan officers, retail, call center, wholesale, whatever division you're in. And I'm teaching you more or less the art of emotional intelligence. And it's really of how to really break past the barrier of the consumer's guard so you can effectively get through to them and sell your message. So IG, I didn't forget about you. I appreciate you guys' time watching this. If you guys have any questions also, feel free to comment and I'll try to pick it up. But if you guys want to get more engagement, I definitely suggest that you guys try and join from the YouTube or Facebook channel. So other questions, advice for contractor calling leads. Oh yeah, Christina, I remember you. I am on retention and I make money based on how many transfers I get to loan officers. I'm doing good now, but I want to make more money and move up to loan officers. So retention is an interesting topic because I actually work in retention, Christina. My team is actually called Save Team. And the reason why is because we will typically step in when other loan officers fail to capture the business or my company is at risk of losing a client. And so retention is a little bit different. It's not sales. It has to sound very much like customer service. But there's a way to go about it. And so depending on when you actually get flagged for that particular lead, so if and again, you could probably type down how you get it. You might be able to get it through maybe a credit pull, like these are called credit triggers or payoff orders that triggers you that there's signs of them possibly shopping. So if that's why you're retaining them, which majority of retention teams do, is you have to be covert about it, right? And so you do what I call these courtesy check-ins. So typically a retention loan officer, just like any other loan officer, they kind of blend the two and they think it's the same. And so some loan officers will call retention lead and say, hey, this is Daniel with your company, right? I just wanted to check in to see if you let someone pull your credit or if you ordered this payoff demand. Are you shopping, right? Are you interested in refinancing? And that's just, again, it's not being smooth enough to really capture their attention, where you have to blend it in more of a customer service role. And so one of my favorite openings with retention leads would be like, hey, Christina, this is Daniel, just doing a quick courtesy check-in. As promised, when we funded your loan last year, we would always keep you updated of any new developments and any recent changes within your neighborhood that's going to better position you to improve your existing term. And so that time has come. I'm actually going to be sending out to your iCloud account this report that's going to keep you fully updated with what's going on in your area so that when it's time for you to improve your existing term, you can take advantage of it right away. So since we helped you get into your current loan, we actually provide courtesy services, meaning there's no lender fees. And I can send this information to you. I just want to make sure your iCloud account is still active. And what's going to happen, they're going to say, yeah, my iCloud account's still active, or no, go ahead and send it to this email and say, okay, got it. So before I do, let me just confirm, has there been any changes with like income, employment, credit, marital status, title vesting, or is everything the same? And they're going to say everything's the same or maybe a few other changes, right? And side note, this is very effective for departed agents. So if you work on a team right now and you see agents that are leaving, even if they're not on your team, they're on your floor, like I'd find a way to access their pipeline. And your company is more than willing to support you on that, because if you're not going to approach them, who is, right? Like your competitors are. And so always think about that, because that'd be a good way to, especially if you're a purchase agent, is absorb their pipeline. So departed agents pipeline, typically their past funded clients go onto the dialer or no one's working them. Well, if you can claim those leads, they then become your refi business and then your book of business as you move forward and build your pipeline with that company. So think about that. Hope that answers your question, Christina. I got invited to an open house this weekend, and this is from Joseph. And working with a realtor that I have never worked with. I'm the lender for the purchase, of course, trying to get the buyer for his home that he is selling. Of course, makes absolute sense. So Joseph, I think that, depending on your existing platform, every company is going to have different resources and different tools that they can share with the realtor, right? But what you have to do is, if you're going to spend time with the realtor, is use the opportunity to investigate how you can build more relationships with that broker office, because that realtor is one of maybe 3 or 5 or 10. And so questions that could be very effective, it'd be like, hey, so where where's a majority of your team? How are they capturing their leads right now? Is it just through open houses? And they're going to tell you, right? He'll tell you like, nah, we do this, that, or the other. And that intel you can actually use for future meetings with realtors. If they're not using those same methods, and you could suggest it with the other realtors. And just by you suggesting it, this actually positions you as an expert, and they'll actually find a little bit more value because you thought of it, even though it was that dude that told you it, right? And so, but nonetheless, use that opportunity to not only investigate and create bridges to work with other realtors within that broker office, but get an idea of how you can complement their business, so that when that realtor does another property, that you're going to be the preferred lender. You're going to be that person that they send their business to. And if you got buckets of realtors or referral partners that can position you to where you just get an influx of leads, because everyone that you run into who gives you or that you got a pre-approval, it's just an opportunity to close a loan or transaction a little bit later. But you have to find that good balance of not only issuing pre-approvals, but farming them and really managing them. And there's required consistency. And I think a lot of the challenge is some loan agents be like, but D, I got 30 pre-approvals out in the street right now. How am I going to call all 30 people every Friday to check in? And the truth of the matter is you don't. A lot of these people, they're too busy to take a phone call anyway. Create some sort of email template and blast it to them, right? Or continuously send it to them. Now you just got to get creative. You don't necessarily need a call, right? You could send a text blast to every single one of them, because they should have your cell phone, and it's just copy and paste, bro. Copy and paste, right? And it's got helpful information, but I definitely wouldn't put long ass text. If anything, you want to send them a quick text and say like, hey, happy hunting, sent you an important email. Check it when you get a chance, right? And this is like Friday. And so if they check their email, it'd be your email and saying, hey, I know you got a couple properties lined up. Happy hunting. Hey, by the way, here's a few things that you want to keep in mind. And this could be very important information that you curated from other blogs or just from your experience or from other loan officers. Like, hey, before you buy your house, make sure you use this checklist. Or, hey, before you open up escrow, make sure, or while you're searching for your home, make sure you do this, that, and this to protect your credit or improve your FICO score. So when it comes time to open up escrow, I can get you the absolute best rate available. And so this is information that you're going to consistently use, right? You're not just going to use it on Jim one time. So you're going to use it on Julie, Sam, Eric, and whoever pals you come across. But this is why it's important to save it as a template. So think about that and create this automated system that works for you. All right. Let me see. Sean, what up, Murphy? Good morning. What do you do when you have framed the call, called back, presented the offer, and the client never calls back? What should I try differently? Good question. So it depends also on how you frame the call, and if you're calling them back, because at the end of the day, if they feel like they got too much information or they feel like they're secure with you, then they don't necessarily need to call you back anymore. But it's also with the way you deliver the message. So there's a particular sequential order, right? Like the way most loan officers deliver their pitch, it has something to do with like price, benefits, and then logistics, right? And so it's typically in that sequential order. So it's price, benefits, logistics. And this is how it sounds. Hey, Jim, or hey, Sean, this is Daniel. I got some options for you. Option number 1 is 4.5%. This is going to help lower your monthly payment, and this is how you get it, right? And so it's in that sequential order. And what I found is that when you deliver it in that sequential order, they typically will mute out the other two things if they don't like your very first message. And so if you're talking about frame up the call, if you do it right, they're not going to ghost you, because number one is you had them emotionally bought in. And what I think that you may be having a challenge with is because you're going over too much details and you're making it an intimidating process. So when you bring up things that are irrelevant, that they don't understand, they're going to shy away from it, and they're going to find a loan officer who makes it easy to understand, who makes it easy to buy. Because when you bring up information that is foreign to your prospect, that they don't necessarily understand or can't relate to, or they have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, they're not going to buy into you because they don't get it. And they're using too much of their mental capacity and energy and trying to figure out what riddles you're talking about. But when you kind of dummy it down and you make it applicable to them, where you're just hitting points that are based on them. So I can basically say, hey, I can help you remove a lot of the revolving debt that you said you're paying $500 to. That's an effective way versus saying, hey, you know that Chase bill that you said you're paying like 18% on it, right? What, 18, 19%? Okay, geez, it's going to take you forever to pay that off, won't it? Like, that's too much detail. Like, just make it easy and be like, hey, bro, I know you're paying $500 in revolving debt. That's the whole reason why these credit bureaus are commenting the way they are, and your FICO score is being plummeted by this effect. And so I want to help you remove those comments by paying off the revolving debt. And here's the upside, Sean, is it's going to put a couple extra bucks in your bank. And with that extra couple bucks, you can avoid the deficit that you illustrated to me in our first conversation. Here, watch, Sean, this is how. Makes sense? So instead of the popular sequential order of price, benefit, and logistics, like basically how you get it, what you come in with first is benefits, right? Logistics, and then the price. So the price is always last, and that's why it's important to follow that particular order. So I hope that helps. Christina O'Connor, yeah, you're very welcome. Appreciate you, lady, for commenting. Thank you for engaging everybody. I was there and was doing all of that at NAF. I would like some feedback on my KPIs. Joseph Medina, I get invited to an open house. All right, so far, if you guys think that this information is helpful, please type 1, no matter what. Even if you're too shy, you got stage fright to type up a question because you're too cool, don't worry about it. I'm not mad at you. I think a lot of these loan officers who had the courage to type up some of their questions in the comment box at least got some helpful information that's going to help them build up their business. And as they build up their business, another thing that they're doing is building up their pocketbook. And so I hope that this information, regardless if you were too shy to type in the questions, has helped you in some way, shape, or form. I'm actually going to be sharing a link at the bottom of this video, in the notes of this video, that gives you access to the free sales script. I strongly urge you to download a copy of that sales script because it's going to equip you with the right word tracking to actually break down the resistance that you come across in a lot of your, whether inbound or outbound calling. I've provided different sides of the script. So if you're dealing with inbound leads or you're outside loan officer and you're dealing with cold calls, the concept and the wordplay within the sales script at salesremastered.com, there's a link right below this video that's going to show you how to access that. And I strongly urge that you use your personal email address. Use your Yahoo, use your Gmail, whatever. Don't use your work email, because your work email is going to quarantine me, because I'm not sending it from like just any general email server. It's coming from my company at salesremastered.com. So I hope that helps. Advice for contractors, calling leads. All right. Playing. Okay, cool. So for the last 15 minutes, if you guys don't have any other questions, feel free to comment, whatever your takeaway was, what your favorite part is. For those of you who actually do follow the content at Sales Remastered, what's your favorite part about the content? What do you think it's missing? What do you think, there could be more of? And I, of course, love to know through you, because you're the audience. And so my whole entire goal is to serve you value, right? Is to help the community who follows at Sales Remastered, whether it's on Instagram or whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you find the content and information. I always love to hear from you, whether it's a DM or direct message, private message, whether it's on LinkedIn or it's an email. I really thrive off that information because it's allowed this brand to become what it is today. And a quick shout out to all the students who enrolled already into the Sales BoostCamp. I look forward to working with you directly. I know this particular scenario is a little bit different because you're on a live stream. So there's a lot of people who can read your comments, and it's not necessarily intimate or direct. Whereas the Sales BoostCamp is specifically designed to give you that direct mentoring coaching calls. So I'm looking forward to our calls. And there's been a lot of students who've enrolled already in the Sales BoostCamp. I'm fortunate, I'm blessed, because it allows us to build this community where we can all build and grow together. And I have, within that course, there's in the secret formula, there's this very, very helpful module called scripts and templates. And it's basically a collection of all my own personal scripts and my personal templates that I use to this day. And it's already formatted to where you could just swipe the content and paste it onto your own email or your own text. And so it's already done for you. And it's proven, my entire team uses it. And even they mentioned it's butter. It just automates the process. And if you want access to that, be sure you email me. You can email me, Daniel@salesremastered.com. If you want access to that scripts and templates module, I'll take care of you so that way you can get access to it and automate that tedious part of your process, because the majority of the times what we spend a lot of time doing is retyping emails or sending out the same exact message over and over. Well, imagine if you can have it already laid out that's effective, and the copywriting of that message is very psychological. It enables you to build the curiosity so you can have them respond back to you without any real friction, because they don't see any threat in the copy that I put together. So again, if you want a copy of that scripts and templates module, email me, Daniel@salesremastered.com. Just say, hey D, heard you on the live, hook it up with that scripts and templates module, and I'm gonna hook you up with that today. Also within there is this module called Mentors Library. Mentors Library is, I think now is about 8 hours just of straight content of me mentoring students already in the Sales Boost Camp. And so, every other week or every 30 days with the students, we'll share an hour together where it's just us, and we're going over questions, concerns, specific challenges that they're facing. And now there's a collection, I want to say, of over 15, possibly even 20 of them inside that module now. And it's called the Mentors Library. So it's very much like you get to kind of be a fly on the wall and hear the advice being given to every LO's specific environment, situation, challenge, things that they're having difficulty in overcoming to reach that next level. And so this particular module, I'm also creating a separate course or product that's going to be available. So if you're interested in that, just email me again, Daniel@salesremastered, and say, hey D, I want access to the Mentors Library, hook it up. And just that in itself is worth its weight in gold, just like the scripts and templates module. I mean, these are powerful things. So if you don't necessarily have the funds to invest, to enroll into the Sales Boost Camp, at least you have the opportunity to capture some live direct mentoring content, where, it's like you're a fly on the wall. But I can't stress enough how important it is to invest in yourself, whether it's a book, audio book, or getting a coach or gym membership, or, getting yourself a new suit. It's very, very important to invest in yourself. Because a lot in sales, I think sales is the only thing that you could really truly invest in yourself and make it back and then some, right? So if you knew how to find a way that would teach you how to make more sales. Well, what does more sales mean to you? What does it mean to your income? What does it mean to your confidence, your security at your job? Does that make sense? And what you're going to find is that if it helps you generate income, what better investment is there, right? It's just hands down. And so if you can invest into a course that helps you recoup your investment and then increase your income, that's just a win-win. But you would be amazed how many people are afraid to invest in themselves, but they don't find it at all threatening to invest into the Super Bowl bets or sports bet or buying out $300 at a bar on a weekend, right? Or buying a $200 Gucci pair of sandals blows my mind. But when it comes to actually putting some money up to learn your craft so that you don't have to struggle, you don't got to worry, you can literally get those top tier bonuses, is hesitation. And I think a lot of the hesitation comes because, well, what if it doesn't work? And that's exactly why I give a 30-day money back guarantee. I'll back my shit up, bro. I know my shit works. And yeah, so it's there for you. You can learn more information about those vehicles at salesremastered.com. So we got about another 5 minutes. Hopefully all the information has helped you within this live stream. Doesn't look like there's any other questions. If you guys have any questions, hurry up and type them now and I'll answer them. If my leads are mainly purchases and realtors referrals, how do I look for more refis to boost my production? Christian Pineda says that if my leads are mainly purchases and realtor referrals, how do I look for more refis to boost my production? I think you being in retention, you kind of already have a little bit of an exclusive access to that, because you're dealing with the past clients who's worked with you before. So there's a lot of business already under your nose. We just typically don't look at it. But you have relationships with title companies, because typically your transactions on purchases close with at a title company or escrow company, right? And so the title resources and contacts that you have right now inside your Rolodex will put you in front of those leads, and you can actually tailor them. So what you're looking for, most in particular, are FHA purchase loans that purchase within a specific area that you're focused in. They can refine it down to the loan amount, to the lender who financed it. They can give you the rate, the loan term. A lot of times they can give you the phone numbers. They'll scrub it from the do not call list. And so there's leads there. But if you don't want to approach a title rep so that you cold call, that's the old school way. Not too many LOs are doing that, because LOs came up inside of an era where they're fed leads. And so they're more accustomed to internet aggregate leads. And this is why that's kind of a very, it's saturated. There's too many sharks within that sea, if you will. And where there are not enough sharks, or inside the area of the ocean where you actually have to go hunt, you have to go cold call. And I think that those who really refine that task in cold calling, whether it's title leads or maybe the departed agents from your team or your company who already left, and you're cold calling their past clients, I think that's how you generate fast business in order to give yourself the confidence that you need as you're building other avenues, like for purchase and pre-approvals. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Gonna stack up so I can get signed up. Yeah, John. Hey, man, we take credit cards too, bro. There's this payment program going up. So on that note, April 1st, the cost of enrollment for the Sales BoostCamp actually increases. So it's gonna go up to $29.97. It just has to. It's taking up more of my time, more of my availability. And yeah, it's just necessary. I think still at $29.97 is a steal, because if you think about how much money do you make on one deal, right? And so if this course can teach you how to make an extra deal per week, let alone per day, I got agents on here making a couple extra sales per week, just because of the content and information that they're learning from within the Sales BoostCamp. Like, it's a fucking no-brainer, right? Like, come on, like, how much do you make per one deal? If you want to type that up, feel free to type that up. But how many deals will you need to make in order to recoup the investment? And a lot of people it's weird, but it's like this vicious cycle where, there's always that excuse, like, oh, I can't afford it right now. I got to get my money right. And I'm not saying anything about you, John, or Joseph. What I'm getting at is that this is very common. This is how I used to look at it too. It's like, my money's tight right now. Well, your money's tight. Your money's not right now, because you may be doing it the wrong way. So find the solution to do it the right way, so your money's never tight anymore. You have assets, you have surplus, right? Like, that's the answer. And so, when I didn't have any money and I was coming up in this game, like, what I did is I put shit on credit cards, bro. Like, my very first suit that I had, it was financed on a Capital One credit card. I had a $500 limit, bro. And it was like a $300 suit, one of the most expensive things I ever bought before. But whenever I wore that suit, and I wore that suit damn near 4 times a week, it just kept that bitch clean. But when I was wearing that suit, it gave me the confidence and radiance that I needed, because in my head, I needed to be like those that I wanted to be like. And I wanted to be like the ballers. I wanted to be like the successful agents that were on my floor. And so I had to do what they were doing. And what they were doing was buying fine suits. What they were doing was being mentored and being coached and buying books and really practicing their craft. They're the ones that were doing the role playing, right? And so I needed to do that, right? That's just something that I needed to do, even though it took me to pay time, and it took me to pay money. It took me to take risk and put, a $300 suit on my credit card. I knew that it would put me one step closer to unlock the solution to everything that I was not having at that moment. So I didn't have the money. I didn't have the credit. I didn't have, I didn't have the resource. I didn't have the car. I didn't have any of that. But when I stepped outside my comfort zone, I invested in myself, I discovered that was the only way that I can actually get to the solution. And so I'm so fortunate that I did take that step, and I invested in myself. So I hope that helps you guys. All right, so that's pretty much it. It is 9 a.m. I appreciate you guys, and I'm so excited and happy that the software did not crash. Everything went fine. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video for all the content that I've shared with you today. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And again, if you want access to the scripts and modules, scripts and templates module, be sure to email me. If you want access to the mentors library, be sure to email me. If you want access to a payment plan so you can get enrolled into the sales boost camp before the prices go up to $29.97 come April 1st, email me, daniel@salesremastered.com, and I will hook you up today. I appreciate you guys' time. Have a blessed Thursday, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.